back, everybody, to week 4 of the Dead Education Podcast, episode 4, where we had to punt this week. I know for the 3 listeners of last week's show, we had talked about having a guest on this week, and we will have another guest, but there was just some scheduling complications that got in the way, and it's always tough to triangulate 3 schedules, so we will have that coming up. Probably 2 weeks, because I really want to do Halloween next week. I think that's a fair time to do it. So we punted, and we decided this week will be a surprise. We are covering Terrifier 2, the sequel to last week's movie, Terrifier. So
the movie that we both said we were not interested in seeing.
Yeah. We ended last week's episode with it. I'm not wasting my money on that one. So there we are. We watched Terrifier 2. There was just enough morbid curiosity, I think, out of the both of us that are like, well, it's right there in front of us, and honestly, part of it was, not that it's probably going to help, but part of it was, maybe it'll boost some download numbers, maybe you'll get, a little bit more attention because we're covering a brand new current movie that maybe, people that are not searching for us, but are searching for Terrifier 2 might come across us and give us a shot. So, a little bit of business spin on it, but that's about as selfish as I got. And so I'm one of your hosts, Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we are going to be rolling out this week's episode covering Terrifier 2. Okay. Go ahead.
So this movie starts off where Terrifier ended. We're back in the morgue with the coroner, and he's crawling away. And like you've stated before, everything is slow motion and trying to get away from things. Yeah. He's crawling as slow as he can. Art the clown, who is also back and resurrected, he is following this coroner as slow as he can. And it switches to coroner gets killed in not the goriest way, I would say.
No.
But in a pretty his skull is cracked open.
Yeah.
And
and I think
his eyeballs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was, because Art at the end of the last one, when he shot himself in the head, he lost an eye, so he had to replace that eye.
Yes.
I will give this Art. Art was funnier in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's funny
to kill,
but his miming was a little bit more polished and humorous in this one, I suppose.
Yes,
which is fitting for a clown. But with that being said, this is the first of many just special effects gore, scenes, and I feel the majority of the movie really just feels kind of like last week, where we said there was no plot last week, and there really wasn't a plot.
No. But
at least there was the suspenseful cat and mouse chase going on the whole time. And even if it wasn't Tara or Dawn, it ended up being, Vicky, or, it's like Art was always chasing someone.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, Art, he wasn't on the prowl. He just kind of ended up places.
Yeah.
And then people he would kill there. And of course there was unlike last week where at least somebody had the wherewithal to call the police, there was no police presence in this movie.
Nothing.
At all. Just bodies all over the place. And Art's just out doing his thing. I was digging a little bit, and of course last week we talked about the director, what's his name? Leon. Damien Leone, how he was the writer and the director and the editor. Well, I dug into it. He's also had special effects.
So he's a busy man.
I can't imagine how long this movie would take to make, knowing that he's got to put together all the special effects and then film it all after he's written it all and then edit it all. And but stuff like that does keep your budget down, I suppose. And it does keep consistency with the gore, because he did it all in the first movie as well. So there was some continuity in the amount of gore, which is a lot of gore. A lot of excessive, over-the-top. I think I joked last week, and the joke still holds. There must have been a sale at like the fake blood emporium. There was a sale at the just the practical effects
Yes.
superstore, because just so much of it. But yeah, so like you said, he's resurrected for some reason. Whatever. Murders the coroner, and then he ends up where anyone would go, the laundromat.
Yes. And as he's walking in, there is a guy catching some Z's who's also washing his clothes in the middle of the night. And Art continues to get undressed, throw his things in.
Which was just weird.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. I battled with this scene. I apologize for cutting you off. I battled with the scene because you just led us to believe that Art is some sort of like, not mythical figure, but some sort of supernatural being.
Yes.
And then he goes to the laundromat and strips down, and he's just a dude.
Like, he's got a butt just like everyone else.
I know. He's just a dude. And it's like, I don't know, just there's a lot of inconsistencies with stuff like that. And I'm not going to take anything away from Leone, because making a movie is hard.
Yes.
And securing a budget is hard. And it's like, this is his complete vision on screen. But this is 2 weeks in a row where, like, just real uncontinuity with your storytelling skills. But so what's going on at this laundromat?
Art is just sitting there reading a newspaper, and he hears this noise. And he looks over, and I think she's like listed on IMDb as little pale girl.
Yeah.
And you see this like ghostly looking girl sitting there. And this is the part in the movie where I was like, what the heck? Because it zooms to her, and then I think it looks back at him, but it goes back to her, and she like just poops all over the floor.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but this part made me laugh out loud, and because it goes back to Art's face, and he was also like a little disgusted.
Right.
I mean, he can pull out people's eyeballs, but she just pooped in the laundromat, and that's disgusting to him.
Yeah.
And his face, it was I think it was really funny to see his face.
It was. And it was little touches like that. I think I read somewhere that this actor, David Howard Thornton, I think he has a background in miming, which really helps with this role, because he doesn't say a word through 2 straight movies, but he definitely can use his like exaggerated facial expressions, even behind all the makeup and prosthetic teeth, to sell the comedy. I don't want to say comedy, but to sell the humor of the moment. Yeah.
And so then he goes over, and they're playing like pat a cake, I would say. And the one guy wakes up, and he looks over, and he just sees Art. Like, Art is just playing with the air.
Yeah.
There is no ghostly girl to be seen. And it flashes to Art packing his stuff up, getting dressed, leaving. And we have our second victim already in, like, I don't know, 6 minutes of the movie.
Right.
And there's a knife just sitting through that guy's head.
Yeah, and he's just kind of twitching, and it's like, okay, and I guess on that one, I mean, I don't know, they showed the gore, but they didn't show the violence.
Yes.
There was, but it's still like, just there's nothing in Art's way that is not going to get hit by carnage. And he establishes himself real quick right here. The first 2 human beings he comes across in this movie, he is destroyed violently. Yeah. And then this wave of terror continues. And I'll bring up this point again later, because it does come into play later in the movie, where there was some choices that didn't fit Art's character later on. So then we fast forward a whole year again. Yeah. Where we meet our heroine. We meet our leading lady, Sienna Shaw, and she's putting the finishing touches on her Halloween costume. It's just some sort of like, almost gives the vibe of like some video game-esque,
Yeah.
like warrior princess with like, but she's going full cosplay
She
on
is,
it. Like she's,
yes.
you know, very few of the pieces are purchased. She's creating them and putting it all together. Very talented, you know, high school student that clearly is not being played by a high school student.
Yeah.
You know, just because, yeah.
I will say though, she was a 10 times better actress than Donna Tara.
Yeah, at least 10, if not more. Yeah, she was a worthwhile actress.
Yes.
And I will say that about the majority of the acting in this movie. It definitely was better than the limited acting skills we had of last week's. But to be fair, the budget's a little higher. He's a little bit more experienced. You know, and so yeah, she is a much better. It wasn't painful following her through the movie. And so she designs this warrior princess thing. We find out that her father passed away of a brain tumor, and like she's basically doing this costume for him. You know, and so then she finds out, talking to her like 12-year-old brother Jonathan, he is going to go as Art the Clown.
Yep, and that does not make her happy.
No, because that's what we do in America, folks. We've done it for a very long time. We take horrific figures, especially those that are, you know, murder-centric, and then we just turn them into Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
We did it with Michael Myers, we did it with Jason, we did it with Freddy, we did it with Chucky, we did it with Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we did it with Scream, which Scream, of all of them, hits way closer to home, simply because those were like real-life, well, not, you know, in the movie, you know, those were high school kids murdering high school kids.
Yeah.
Wearing this costume that they bought at the costume store. And yet, you know, and I know our school, we've got a policy of there's certain masks you cannot wear because of the violence that it, you know, not the violence that it causes, but because of the violent ties that it has. And so it's no surprise that Jonathan's like, I'm going as Art the Clown. You know, because just 1 year ago, he murdered so many people.
Yeah.
And now we're going to dress up as that for Halloween. So Sienna, you know, she's talking to her mom, you know, expressing concern. She doesn't think it's right Jonathan should dress like this. Mom decides, hey, this is going to be my movie, and I'm going to overact the heck out of it. You know, Mom was our first character that really went a little overboard. I wouldn't put her as far overboard as the aunt from Sleepaway Camp.
Yep, I was just thinking that.
She's not quite that far overboard, but enough that, like, and I even said this to my wife who were watching it, like, to look at her, she's dressed like a mom. Like, her portrayal as a mom, but her mouth and personality don't fit the way she dresses.
Yeah, no, like, she's got a mouth.
Yeah,
but
and
she
it's
looks
just
like this sweet mom.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, it just, there seems to be a disconnect there because, like, for me, and for you as well, my experience with parents, and I could be way wrong, but I've been teaching for 20 years, is typically the personality of the parent is reflected in their presentation as well. They dress the way they act the way they dress. And this mom is, like, completely separate. I'm going to dress like an upstanding mother, but I'm going to treat you like a trash mom. So that night, Sienna has a dream, and in her dream, she encounters Art. And there's just, at some point, we hit this, I think we've seen it already. There's just so many different, just scenes of just weirdness.
Yeah, like this Clown Cafe commercial. Yeah. And, I mean, it's, you know, you've got all of these high school kids hanging out, and they just love eating at the Clown Cafe, and then you've got this guitarist.
Yeah, it's kind of a kumbaya singer.
Yeah, yeah, it's really odd. And then it flashes to a kitchen where this little boy's eating cereal. I don't remember, but it was like art cereal.
Art-based cereal.
Yeah, and I mean, it's got like maggots and glass.
And there were I feel, again, because like this movie could not keep my attention in the early scenes. I kept dozing off. My wife kept elbowing me. You're falling asleep. You need to be watching this. And I just told her, I can't. Like, there's no plot to follow. There just seems to be this collection of scenes, and this being one of them, the Clown Cafe, where, like, as a standalone little thing, was effective, because you've got
Yes.
this like kids show, and everything just feels off. Like you said, the kids are too old to be doing the things they're doing, and everything's just too clean and too perfect. And then Art shows up, and of course, murders the kids, lights
Yeah.
the singer on fire, and she just keeps playing away while she's
Yep.
on fire, like fully engulfed in flames. The kid, and as he kind of gets zombified a little bit or whatever, it's like, it's an effective scene. It just doesn't belong.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like a lot of the gore scenes were too, where, okay, it's effective gore. You're going to satisfy some people's cravings here, but it's like, it just didn't fit. Like, almost like there were characters introduced just to kill.
Yes.
And it's like, that's just a little gratuitous in a storytelling mode for me. It's like, if you want to do special effects, that's fine, do special effects. But if you're going to make a movie just to showcase your special effects, give people something to watch. Like, because some of us are here for a story. I came to Terrifier 2 because I wanted to know the plot. And so, she wakes up from this dream. Her like wings are on fire. She's not wearing them; they're showcased. And Mom thinks that the candles. I mean, her mom getting a fight. The candles. I told you not to fall asleep. And it's like, we know it wasn't, but it's just again feeds into the supernatural kind of thing.
Yes.
And this is the first time we see the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was one that her dad had left behind.
Right. As most fathers do before they pass on their treasured sword onto their children.
And this, it didn't really get engulfed in flames, but when she was done, she was like inspecting it, and it had like 3. Were those 3 scratch marks put on there?
I think so. Like it was almost like the sword was christened in the fire.
Yes.
It very heavy-handed laid down the fact that this sword is important.
Yes.
It's gonna come back. Like, that's the one thing that Leon definitely left out there. If you were confused because of the weirdness, that's fine. But when he wanted you to know something was going to show up later, like this sword,
it will come back.
It's coming back. Like, there was might as well have had like neon lights pointing at it. Like,
see you later.
Exactly. Don't remember me. And so it's Halloween now.
And Jonathan is at school.
Yes.
With his friends, who are, kind of jerks.
They are.
Like, they're playing with this dead possum that's had its insides kind of, not torn out, but you can open it up to see the insides.
Yeah.
And they call over this girl, showcase it off, they get in trouble, and it flashes to, he is, another scene, like, Nightmare on Elm Street. He's in class, and then he heads out, and he sees this little pale girl, so he follows her.
Right.
And
as you do when you're 12.
Yes, and
you put all fear to the wind, and you just go with your guts. And,
and
I don't know a single 12-year-old that is gonna nope. Especially this kid. He's kind of a pansy. Like, yes, he's not a real strong-willed child.
No, not at all.
Unlike his sister.
And once again, Art the Clown and this little ghost girl are playing patty cake in the hallway, just sitting down. And they're sharing the possum as well, like coddling it kind of like a baby. Mm-hmm. And then Jonathan and Art make eye contact, and Art just, a swift chest pass with the possum straight to Jonathan.
Yeah.
And Jonathan's suspended.
Yeah. This is one of the early scenes where the disconnect in the storytelling, not that it's like solid storytelling, but this is the third person that we've seen Art come into contact with. And it's the first person he didn't murder.
Yep.
But it just so happens to also be a member of the family we're supposed to be following. Mm-hmm. So it's just this weird handoff of like, Art doesn't know who this kid is, but we do because the cameras followed him around. So it's just that whole like, Art's killed everybody else. Why did he spare this kid? well, and I say the third, but we've got the whole clown cafe crew as well. So it's like the two, the morgue attendant, the guy at the laundromat, everybody at the clown cafe, everybody has died.
Yep.
And then Jonathan just gets a chest pass from a dead possum. Mm-hmm. Like, do you see what I mean? It's like, it doesn't click with the way Art's been acting thus far. But yeah, like you said, the teachers find the possum, and of course, I don't know. I know when our school teachers can't suspend a kid, but apparently in Terrifier 2 high school or junior high, I guess it'd be Terrifier 2 junior high. Teachers just get to suspend kids. You're suspended. I was like that in like old 80s movies where teachers would always tell kids, like, they'd get mad and be like, you're expelled. Like, you have no idea of the process of expulsion. Like, there's a hearing, and no, it's not just, you don't just tell a kid they're expelled and then suddenly that works. But, that would be a boring movie trope of like all of the school board and parents sitting down to discuss. But yeah, so Jonathan's suspended from school because he gets blamed for the dead possum. Sienna goes to the costume shop to get a replacement pair of wings because hers were burnt. And there she finds Art. Art's everywhere.
Yes, he is.
And not in like I don't mean Art's everywhere in like this like progressive movement for culture. Look around, folks. Art's everywhere. I don't mean it like that. I mean that in this movie, Art is everywhere. He's at the school and he's at the costume shop. But again, Sienna's at the costume shop, yet 2 humans in a row that Art has encountered and let go.
Yep.
Because they're important to the story, I suppose. So she gets her wings, and he's antagonizing her. He's messing with her. Lets her go after she leaves. Of course, he kills the shop vendor. Whatever. So my headphone's stuck there. Sorry. So we get back to the house. And Mom, Barbara, she's mad because she found out Jonathan got suspended.
Yes, and Sienna is like trying to defend him, like he wouldn't do this. And after she was just, saying like, Mom, you should be worried. You're gonna find a dead animal in his room the night before. Yeah. And Mom is mad. Mom is yelling at him. Is this where Mom takes away the Halloween?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going anywhere.
Yep. You're staying in the house all night.
Yes.
Sienna's planning on going to a party with her friends. We skipped the scene where she's going with her friend Brooke and another friend. I can't remember the other friend's name.
Allie.
It doesn't matter. Allie. And we skipped the scene where Allie and her mother were murdered.
Yeah.
Brutally.
Very, very brutally.
And
go ahead. That was another one, like, Dawn last week. Like, Allie had been cut, her scalp had been peeled off, she'd been sliced, everything. I mean, bleach poured in her cut, salt, which that hurt. I mean, that kind of hurt me to watch.
That part, out of all of it, that one was the first that like we could really associate with.
Yes.
Like,
like that.
getting sweat in a cut hurts.
That hurts. And I mean, she is still crawling. She is still moving, and it's like, honey, you've lost all of the blood and then some from your body.
Yeah, like your brain is exposed.
Yes, and it's had bleach poured on it and salt. How are you still moving?
There's a couple things here. Well, not just a couple, several that were just so like this was again. Let's introduce characters just to show grisly death. Mm-hmm. I leaned over to my wife at one point, as you know, as a nurse, and I go, as a medical professional. Would she still be, like, half her face was torn off? Like, but little things, like, Art takes the scalpel and slices her scalp and then peels her head back like an orange peel.
Yeah.
At one point, he, like, grabs fingers and, like, tears them. But, like, you see her arm, like, rip halfway down to her elbow. And it's like, those little things, like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's gory. And some people are going to be like, oh, that's so cool. Because, I mean, I've seen kills in movies where I'm like, that was impressive. Like, that was kind of fun. Unrealistic, but still. But this is like, her arm is not a sheet of paper. Like, it doesn't tear that way.
No.
So I'm going to guess the special effects department was not necessarily paying attention to, like, anatomy and physiology.
They just
took a
wanted
lot
the gore. Yes.
took a lot of art classes. But yeah, like mom comes into Allie's bedroom and she's laying there in bed. Like he's torn her arm off. Mm-hmm. Her face is half gone. Her brain's exposed. Cuts everywhere. Bleach and salt in the wounds, etc., etc., etc. Like she is just like it's. And then her mom comes in and screams, and then she looks at her mom and goes, "Mom," like, okay, well,
yeah,
sure you did, sure you did.
And maybe I'm just like overthinking it because in kindergarten, if we have a scratch, like that's the end of the world. It's like,
oh yeah,
Band-Aid, wrap it up, wet paper towel. You get a big hug, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, they should know. They should see this and see like, my scratch is nothing.
It's true. Show this on Monday. Just this scene. Just this scene. Take it to them and be like, hey, next time you guys are complaining about a paper cut or a scratch, take a look at what your body can endure a lot more than you give it credit for.
Don't come to Mrs. Jones unless you look like this.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, that would be horrific. Kid comes in from the playground and his arm's missing. I'm trying to be tough. I'm being strong. And then mom, I don't remember how mom dies, but she dies. And then we get this kind of fun little, not really fun, but it's just kind of a corny little comical scene where trick-or-treaters come to the door. And
yes, I forgot about
it was
this.
kind of fun. Trick-or-treaters come to the door and Art answers the door. And he's got the mom's head there with the skull cap and brain removed and candy put into... like the open cranium.
Yes, and like,
the
they're
kids
not scared.
Kids in a parent. Ew! As they're reaching it, one girl's like, "Why is my candy sticky?" And the mom's like, "Quit complaining." And it was kind of fun. It was like, okay, that's obviously not realistic, but it was still kind of fun because Halloween's the only day of the year you can get away with that.
Yes.
And of course those kids, unbeknownst to themselves, were of course pulling from a real dead head. And so this is what happened to Allie and her mom. Sienna's going to go to this party. Jonathan storms out of the house. I'm out of here. He's so mad because he can't go trick-or-treating because he's 12. 7th graders still get bummed out when they can't trick-or-treat. Calls his mom the B word.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And he storms off. And this is... Barbara goes out to the car because she's going to go get him, I think. I don't know. But she goes out to the car and she sees that her car's been vandalized in the garage. Shaving cream all over the place, a broken pumpkin on the hood. And again, the B word etched into the shaving cream on the window.
Toilet paper, or what looked like toilet paper, I guess, all over. I mean, this was a dirty job. Yeah.
If Jonathan, I'm so mad at my mom for taking Halloween away that I'm just going to run away from home. But first, let me stop by the garage and vandalize her car for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But we do find out that who actually vandalized the car.
Art the Clown.
As she's wiping off the driver's side window, Art is there, and for the second time in the movie, pulls a gun. And I talked last week how much that bothers me because it's too quick and too clean, and it's not it doesn't fit the character for somebody who is so brutally violent and enjoys the infliction of violence. A gun is just too quick.
Yeah. And at least in the first scene where he had a gun at the Clown Cafe,
it was like the machine gun.
Yeah, and I don't want to say at least he had that, but it did more damage, and you could see he was enjoying waving that thing around.
Right.
This one is just boom, one shot, you're done.
So he blows mom's head off through the car window. We see her part of her head go hit against the wall. Jonathan has a change of heart and comes home.
And he sees this black van had followed him.
Yeah. Which
kind of, he had a change of heart, and then he had seen that, and then he was like, yeah, I'm definitely going home. I'm out. Yeah. And gets home, and the mom is butchered sitting in the chair, and Art is serving her dinner.
Yeah. He's, he's literally stuffing her face with mashed potatoes. Yeah. Jonathan comes in and sees, like you said, sees his mom. Table's set. Art took the time to make mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
The same Art that obviously was just following Jonathan in the van.
Yeah.
Is now back in the kitchen before Jonathan gets home to cook.
Yeah, and he's doing mashed potatoes.
Art is everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Art is everywhere. Beauty is where you find it.
Yep.
It's like, come on. And then, in a very gruesome scene, no, I'm kidding. He just tackles Jonathan down and gives him a shot.
Yeah.
He just knocks him out.
That's that with Jonathan.
So Sienna's at the party. Sienna's at her party with her friend Brooke, having a good old time. Actually having too good a time.
Yeah.
And even before Brooke told her that she laced her with Molly, I'm watching this and I'm like, that girl's on ecstasy.
Yeah, she's on something because she'd taken a Xanax when she had the news anchor Monica Brown had called her when she'd called her out and she's
that's right.
What? Did she just say Sienna Shaw? And so, not that, I don't know, maybe, I don't think Xanax and alcohol should be mixed anyways, but she's mixing them. And then, Brooke, one of her best friends, also did her dirty.
Yeah. It was just a little, though. It was just a little. And
barely
it's
anything.
Yeah, I could tell. I'm like, this girl has stopped dancing to appreciate the texture of the wall. Come on. It was more than just a little.
Yes.
And so she has this panic. She starts seeing things. She starts seeing the little ghost girl, the little Art, the clown wannabe. And it was kind of an effective scene. She notices her in the crowd, and then somebody walks by and she's gone. She just keeps getting closer. She eventually has a panic attack at the club. She had a panic at the disco. Sorry. And so, talks Brooke and her boyfriend, John, or who was the boyfriend's name? It doesn't matter.
I was going to say, I don't remember that one. Tyler, maybe? I don't know. Jake
or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
But she talks to him, just take me home. Take me home. Mm-hmm. As a good best friend would do that just laced you, not knowing you took a Xanax, but laced you with Molly anyway. Then she starts berating Sienna for ruining the night.
Yeah.
Did she? No.
Yeah.
And so Sienna gets a phone call from Jonathan. So we think, come. I'm at the abandoned carnival. You got to come get me. Well, we cut to, and it's actually Jonathan's passed out in the back of the van, and it's the little ghost girl with Art.
Yeah,
Art's got a driver's license.
Yes, he does. And this is the worst. I guess I shouldn't say the worst because I've seen some bad lip syncing, but the way that this little girl's talking and the voice is coming out, I don't know. I just couldn't get over the fact it's you're not talking.
No, it was pretty blatantly bad. Yeah. Probably would have been, I don't know if it would have been better or worse if she didn't have all the facial makeup.
Yeah.
But it was still clear that it wasn't there. But whatever. And this is actually when the movie starts to get decent.
Yes.
Because it's the first time in 2 Terrifier movies where we actually feel like there's going to be a standoff. Mm-hmm. We've been building Sienna up the entire time to be that hero girl, to be the one that's going to face down Art, for no other reason than just the amount of time she's been on camera.
Yes.
Last movie, we had Tara on camera a lot. But Tara was always trying to get away from Art.
Yes.
And this is the first time where it's Sienna's been on camera the whole time, but just very, very inconsistent with Art. We're actually building a little bit about this character. Mm-hmm. And of course, she's dressed like a warrior princess, so that's kind of a dead giveaway too. So she shows up at the abandoned carnival. We go through this little thing where Brooke's worried about Sienna, but I'm going to stop and make out with my boyfriend first.
Yes.
Because, as you do, then they both take a little bit of coke, and then the boyfriend's going to go. He's got a shirt on that says just the tip.
Yeah.
And it's about stabbing. Well, he goes to the back because he's an adult. He's way old. These girls are obviously older than high school, but he's still older than they are.
Yeah. They're at a big college.
Yeah.
I mean,
so something. As he tells his girlfriend, I'm going to go out and take a pee-pee. It's actually what he said. I'm going to go
Yeah.
take a pee-pee. Their dynamic was okay. Like, I thought Brooke was a little bit of an overactor, but I thought the scenes with her and her boyfriend, they felt fairly
like,
real.
They were the typical, like, I've got a hot college boyfriend in high school, look at me.
Yeah.
You know, like...
That's how I acted in high school when I had a hot college boyfriend.
And, like, she was a little bit of an overactor, but she kind of, I mean... I know some people who are like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I do, yeah.
I know some people.
Yeah, I thought the way that she, like, they both,
yes.
Their chemistry, I thought was decent. Like,
yes.
You could believe that these two, you know, like when he scared her in the car and she, like, was threatening to dump his cocaine
yes.
on. She didn't want him doing it. And this was her, you know, it's like that felt like realistic.
Yeah.
You know, I could see that happening. But he goes out back and Art attacks him in his pee-pee parts.
Yeah.
You know, and this was another one of those, like, okay, we get it. There's a tongue-in-cheek joke here. But it was like, just kept going and going and going. And it's like, man, you know, you bought a lot of blood for $250,000.
Yeah.
So then, you know, Brooke there's this fun little chase scene, I suppose. He pulls Brooke through the window. Brooke, you know, she kicks him off of her, and then she gets up and runs into the into the carnival herself, and Art's following her along, and you know, she ends up. Meanwhile, like, Sienna's looking for her brother. He sends her a text. Of course, it's not really him. That he's stuck in the Terrifier.
Yes.
Like
the haunted house.
Right, the haunted
Terrifier.
house that is named after the movie.
Yep.
Stuck in the Terrifier.
And
so that's where Sienna's at. That's actually where Jonathan is, and that's where Brooke ends up going.
Yeah, of this entire carnival, she just so happens to end up there.
Mm-hmm. It's a big carnival.
Good for her.
I want to know how long this carnival's been abandoned, because honestly, it's still in really good shape.
It is, yes.
For something exposed to the elements.
Yeah.
And it's not like riddled with graffiti and vandalism.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take long.
Not at all. And
it's still good. And the power's still on.
Yeah. Yeah, because the things are jumping out at the haunted house.
Yeah, the haunted house, it's abandoned, but it's still fully operational and ready for visitors. So.
And she makes her way into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And Art has his way with her there. I mean, she's just demolished.
She's ready to fight back. He's come at her with a morning star, like we saw the last movie. It's basically like a chair leg with a bunch of screws or nails or scissors. That's a lot of sharp objects that he's going to whip her with. Well, she grabs a board herself and she's ready to fight back. You know, but Art just conveniently has a canister full of acid in his hand.
Yeah.
Splashes her in the face. Nowhere else on her body all of it landed on her face. I noticed that, like, her face starts bubbling and you know, it's being acid burned or whatever. There's none on her chest. There's none on her shoulders. Art's a pretty good shot.
He is.
Gets her completely with the acid. And so, yeah, and then he just, again, another way over the top. We're going to take quite a bit of time to show you how we can just completely destroy this dummy.
Yes.
Part of my problem with a lot of the deaths in this movie, as opposed to last week's, where, yes, they're all still gory, but last week that warehouse they were spending most of their time in was still very dark.
Yeah.
And so you could hide a lot in the shadows that helped make the violence look more realistic. So much of the violence in this movie was like in brightly lit rooms.
Yeah.
To where, especially like with her death, you know, the lights in this bathroom are on. So when he starts going to town on her body, it's so very obvious that it's fake.
Yeah.
Because everything is so well lit.
And he is this the one, or maybe I'm still thinking of he pushes her face down and in. Was this the one where he did that?
No.
No, okay.
No.
That might have, I mean, I still might be thinking of the coroner, but I'm just like, again, I'm just still mind blown how strong he is.
Yeah, this one was, he took her down because her face was all acid burnt. And then he like was hitting her he hit her in the knee, and her knee kind of exploded.
Yes.
And that looked, because there was such a quick cutaway that looked painful.
Yes.
And then he hit her in the chest, and then kept hitting her in the chest. Mm-hmm. And then it got to the point where like everything just looked real rubbery.
Oh, okay. So this is the one where I thought, you know what though? This is the only scene where she actually died when she was beaten. Because, yes, when he hit her in the chest and she just like coughed up that blood and she kept fighting. Yeah. Like, this was the most unrealistic, realistic murder scene.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, when he did. Because he was like you said, he's beating her in the leg, beating her in the knee. But then when he did, we drove that down into her chest. And she spit up all that blood. It was like, you're dead.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you weren't living through your torture, unlike Allie was. Like, you're dead now. But then he just kept beating her, and then eventually just put his hands in there and like ripped her chest open. But again, everything looks so rubbery because it was rubbery, and it wouldn't have been so noticeable if it wasn't so well lit. And it's like, like, we're here for it. That's fine, but. It's like you overplayed your hand.
But maybe just shut a couple lights off. Like
if we didn't see so much of the detail, it would have been more believable. But whatever. Sienna comes in and finds Brooke. Which bothered me as well, because Brooke gets pinned against the wall. Like, on her own volition. She just backs into that wall when Art's coming at her and stops moving. And then when Sienna comes in from an exit along that same wall that Brooke was pinned on, and I'm like, Brooke, you weren't done running. Like, we believed it, but there was literally a door 3 feet to your right that Sienna just came in from. So Art's still there when Sienna gets in there, sees Brooke all dead, immediately recognizes that it's Brooke though. You know, and then like I said, Art is there, and he's ready. He's ready to torture. He's ready to chase, you know, and then they fight a few times. Honestly, a few times. Like he beats her down too.
Yeah, he does.
And she takes the beating. But again, everything he does to her is terminal. Yeah. Like, he'll cut her or he'll whip her, but nothing is lethal. Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. He's not aware that she's the final girl, but he's been written in a way that keeps her alive. It's just like everything he does, it just, you know, I don't know. It's almost like he was playing with kids' gloves with her. Yes. Because he was written that way, not because he meant to. Yeah. And so then we just get this, you know, they fight, like I said, several times, kind of back and forth. He's throwing her around. She's trying to fight. Jonathan is back. You know, he's trying to help. You know, she ends up on the pit. Like, there's this, he's choking her out and then like pushes her back through. Yeah. She falls like 3 stories, I guess. I don't know.
Falls
doesn't
all
die.
the way down in this
just knocks the wind out of her. Yeah. And then it's like, again, one of these weird scenes of just uselessness of, there's this giant carnival light pit with like voices coming out. Like, okay, is this the gate to hell? Like, I don't know. And he ends up stabbing her in the gut with her sword. Yes. That she hasn't had. Last we knew, it was left back at the house, but apparently Art grabbed it on the way out. He
grabbed it when he gave Jonathan that shot.
So he brought it with him. So yes. Okay.
Put it in his bag of tricks.
She gets pushed down into this pit, which ends up in a giant, like, water chamber on the set of Clown Cafe. Yeah. Everybody's still on fire and dead and singing or whatever. Yeah. I'll admit, the kid at the breakfast table is pretty creepy.
He is. He's just sitting there. I mean, and she is fighting to get out, but something has her. It's like, looks like an octopus tentacle.
Right, I couldn't tell, or she was tied in. I don't know. It was weird. But you're right. Something's keeping her down there, and she loses her fight. She drowns. and I'll give her props. She's a stunt woman too. Like, she's an actress and stunt woman, so she's got experience in the stunt world. But it was a pretty convincing drowning scene.
It was. Like, she is fighting until she just can't fight anymore.
We cut back to Art, who's got Jonathan, who's still knocked out because he got slashed in the face. So Jonathan passed out when he got slashed. And it's kind of another little fun scene where Art's trying to wake him up, snapping his fingers, clapping his hands, smacking him in the face a little bit. He won't wake up, and he's just kind of like irritated that he won't wake up. So he does the next best thing. He just starts eating him.
Yep.
And then I don't know.
This part was kind of. It was kind of weird because it was like something you'd see in like a superhero or like Greek mythology type movie type thing, where it goes back to Sienna, and the sword that he stabbed her with is like, it now has neon lights on it. Yeah, it's the ones that should have been on it earlier.
It's been powered on.
Yeah, and right where she was stabbed above her belly button shoots out this like red array of just light, and she's alive now. Yeah, she's not passed out anymore. Whatever. We
don't know why.
Yeah.
No clue why.
No clue.
There's no backstory to this sword other than Dad gave you that sword. The dad has no backstory other than, he had brain tumors and then drank a bottle of Jack and drove into a transformer and burned to death. There's like I was really hoping Dad's backstory would have been like he was Mike the cleaner from the previous movie or something where like there was some sort of art tie-in. But no, there's no dad backstory, no sword backstory.
Things like I mean, I guess I'm assuming he was maybe like a comic person or
that's right.
Artist,
because Jonathan had his sketchbook.
Yeah. But that is the most that we see from him.
Yeah, it's like Dad's really into World of Warcraft, and that's enough to keep Sienna alive.
Yes.
It's just, okay, whatever. So Sienna is, like you said, resurrected by this sword, climbs out of the pit, knows exactly where Art is, ends up behind Art, and like she decapitates him. Like she starts wailing on him, and just. He's dead now. Cuts his head off. The little ghost girl shows up and takes the head and leaves.
This scene was kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say humorous, but like their facial expressions just get me.
Right.
And because she picks it up and she puts Art's head like right here next to her, so that he's almost like telling her a secret, and she's like whispering. Laughing, right? And looks over and her eyes start glowing, and then. There she goes.
Yeah, she walks away.
Off into the dark.
Yeah.
And I was expecting her to come back at that point. Like, I was full force, like, it's going to be a jump scare. I'm going to jump. But no, she didn't.
Nope. And we get absolutely zero resolution with Jonathan and Sienna. Yeah. They just hug and then the credits. Mm-hmm. There's no what happened to them, and then we get credits. Did you stick around during the credits?
I did. Go
ahead.
Only because we had read last week that something happened, and then I was like, what the heck, like the credits. So I fast forwarded a little bit, and I saw where the psychiatric nurse was like talking. So I rewinded again a little bit, and you are at the psychiatric mental hospital, and you've got Vicky. Yeah. And she's throwing up, she's sick, she's bleeding, she's writing all of this profanity on the wall. She ends with Art and Vicky with a big heart.
And she's pregnant.
Yeah, and it like goes down to her pregnant belly. But I'm like, how? But I guess I said that a lot during this movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm like, okay, it's another scene that doesn't fit.
No.
There's no connection. There's no web.
And he knew it didn't fit because he left it for after the credits. Right. Like he's like, we'll just squeeze this in.
Yeah. Actually, she squeezed it out.
Yeah. The nurse goes and checks on her, and she's humming the Clown Cafe. Walks over to check on her, opens the thing, and she sees that Vicky is like cleaning off.
Like a mama cat would.
Yeah, she's cleaning off this thing that she just gave birth to. And instead of closing it and walking away to go get help.
Agreed.
She opens it in this mental hospital of a girl who's already attacked somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to Vicky, and it's Art's head, but it's like she's licked like all of his makeup off. It's just white, and he's just looking like...
Yeah, winks at her.
Yeah.
Because we got to keep it open for another sequel.
And I read that there is going to be a Terrifier 3, probably.
Of course there is.
But
because these movies are cheap to make, they've built this cult following, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. But part of me, I think I read somewhere, like, this one brought in, like, over $1 million.
Oh yeah, it's right now, its box office is about $3.5 million.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, maybe they'll get a plot. I don't know. Like I did enjoy it better than the first one. So
yeah,
maybe
it was
the
a
third
better
one
made.
Will be better.
This was a better made movie than the first one. It was ridiculously long.
Yes.
I turned it off last night when I was struggling to stay awake. My wife was like, "I don't care if I finish this. It's too much." I'm like, "Okay." So I pause it and I go, "There's 53 minutes left?"
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah, it was 2 hours and 18 minutes long. Yeah.
Something to do with clown movies, because it is also extremely long.
But at least it told the backstory of somebody. This is all just, we're going to go really slow.
Yeah. I think that I read, which again, I read it on Wikipedia, so I don't know. But I read that Terrifier 3 is going to explain Art's back story.
Oh, can't wait.
I want to know what he is. Is he a human? Is he
I don't know,
extraterrestrial? What is he?
He knows how to do laundry. So whatever planet or timeline he's from, they've got laundromats. Did you catch who one of the teachers were at the school? There was one teacher that was in the camera yelling. Probably not. I
did not. I'm trying to think.
It's okay. The actress who played that teacher is Felicia Rose. Who played...
Was that from the sleepaway camp?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. She played, I'm drawing a blank, Angela. She played Angela in Sleepaway Camp.
Okay.
So let's see, this is week 4. We've got Sleepaway Camp, which wraps around from week 1 to week 4.
Yeah.
We've got Nightmare on Elm Street, which is played a similar type scene in this movie.
It's got the dreams that eventually come true.
Right. So yeah, so I guess one thing we could go, I know it's jumping the gun a little bit, but it's like, hey, we're doing a good job of comparing and contrasting and pulling from other, in an evaluation, this would give us a 4.
Yes.
This would be at the top, is we're pulling from other sources to make our point. But yeah, so I almost forgot about that Vicky scene. I only remember because when I'm watching the opening credits and I see the name Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is a professional wrestler, has been for a very long time. And he wasn't in the movie at all at that point.
Yeah. So
the movie's over and I'm like, where was Chris Jericho? And then I'm like, wait a minute, there's this Vicky scene.
It's not over.
Because I didn't see and so I did the same thing. I kind of jumped ahead into the credits and we're like, there. And then who's the orderly? Burke. It's Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
He's the one whose wife brought in the
brains,
the brain
eyes,
and the eye. Yeah. And of course, as a professional wrestler, you're pretty much just an actor anyway, so they usually do a decent job. But yeah, it's there. It's there. It's there. We've covered 2 of them now. I can't wait to get on to the good stuff.
I know this. I mean, yeah, I can't. I hope I'm gonna have to ask my volleyball girls if they've gone to go see this movie.
I doubt it.
Probably not, because they were talking about how people were passing out and stuff, so they were already scared from the get-go, and they're not of age to watch a rated-R movie.
No, they're not. Not that stopped them before.
Yeah,
but you know how cool this is going to make you look.
I know.
You're going to go in and be like, hey, why don't you listen to our episode of Terrifier 2? And they're going to be like, you saw it?
Heck yeah, I have, and I didn't pass out.
That's right. We actually kind of laughed and rolled our eyes more than anything.
All right, grading.
Let's grade this thing. What do you give it?
So last week I gave the Terrifier a C-.
Yes.
And I will say I enjoyed this one more, but it doesn't quite deserve anything higher than a C+.
Yeah.
I could even like branch, I guess, into like a B-, but I'm sticking with a C+ just because there is no plot.
Right.
And the little plot, air quotes, plot that it did have bumps it from a minus to a plus.
Fair enough. I'm going to give this movie a C. I also gave Terrifier a C- last week, mainly because of what he was getting out of his budget. This week he's got a little larger budget, not much, but I'm giving him a C simply because the acting was better.
Yes.
The movie was better to look at. Like it was a better made film. The last one was real grainy, and there was some inconsistencies on the creation. And I also could have gone a little higher rating. However, as a teacher who has graded a lot of papers, this was the equivalent of a very long essay where there's a lot of paragraphs that don't fit the purpose of the paper. And that's really what this boiled down to, was you did the assignment and it wasn't completely terrible. Mm-hmm. However, paragraph 2 did not stick to the theme of your paper.
Yeah.
It didn't stay on topic. So many of the pieces just didn't stay on topic. And your writing assignment was a 2-page paper and you gave me 6.
Uh-huh.
So now I'm forced into reading more than I wanted to read, and it's like you could have, had you revised your paper after I gave you recommendations, it would have been better.
Yes.
And so that it gets a C. It is enough of a bump. And I guess not, we're going to go percentages, but last week was the lowest percentage possible for a C-.
Yes.
And this is probably the highest percentage possible of a C. So it's still several percentage points apart.
Yeah.
But there was enough. But yeah, the runtime was just way too long.
Yeah.
This did not need to be. This movie could have been shortened by 45 minutes and still been fine.
For sure. Yes.
So yeah, I'm good. We're still fairly consistent on our grading scale. That works well. Educationally, what advice would you give?
I know this one.
It was tough.
This one's hard, and advice, I don't even know if I would say this. I guess maybe I'll put myself in the high school volleyball coach position.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, the only thing that I'm thinking of when I was watching this movie is when they went to the party, that's where things just like really started to go wrong. And it's like,
right.
Well, don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah.
It's because not a lot of other things stick out to me. Don't chase a ghost down the hallway.
Yeah, but yeah, like the likelihood of us running into those scenarios.
Yeah.
So what happened to that kid? I think he chased a ghost. Like, oh, he shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you on that. Of parents, if she's a high school student, that means she doesn't have a prescription for Xanax without parental permission. Mm-hmm. And if you do have a prescription for Xanax, parents, monitor your kids.
Yeah.
Like, if your kids have any sort of prescription, don't just trust them with their medicine bottles. Like, you still need to regulate that stuff.
Yeah.
Because drug use in high school is stupid high.
It is a lot higher than I would... and again, I haven't personally seen anything, but the grapevine that it goes through that you hear. And it's like, wow.
We had conferences, as you know, parent-teacher conferences Wednesday and Thursday, and there was a demonstration set up. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail.
I wanted to see that so bad.
Oh my gosh, it scared the
so
crap
bad.
out of me. Scared me. And it was a setup of it was just a teenager's bedroom. Mm-hmm. And all of the places, like walking in, all of the things, not places, just all of the things in a teenager's bedroom that are designed to hide drugs.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to go a lot of detail because there's a reason why you had to be 21 years or older to go into this, because they didn't want to give ideas to kids.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to give ideas to kids. But even our dean of students and our principal, I was talking to them at one point, and they said, I'm never doing a locker search the same way again.
Yeah.
There are so many things in a locker that we just look past because we're looking for paraphernalia or we're looking for drugs. And the gentleman that was presenting it, he's a pastor, but he's also a substance abuse counselor and actually a former addict that had served prison time. And so I was talking with him, and I was like, what turned the page for you? And he had said it was prison. I made a choice there that I was going to come out a different person. But he was saying just based on numbers, and our superintendent was in there when I was in there. But, he had said, he goes, conservatively, 70% of your high school vapes. Mm-hmm. He goes, conservatively.
Yeah.
And even our super goes, as much as I hate to admit it, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Which then forces me to sit and look at my kids. I'm like, I got a class of 10 kids. 10 on the nose.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so 7 of you probably do.
Yep.
And the conversation was what he was saying is what they're getting into is these kids are, like they're stealing it from their parents. And sometimes they don't know what's in it.
No.
Sometimes these vape cartridges have been replaced and these kids are just vaping whatever's there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's meth. And they don't even know it until they've inhaled it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's laced. And he was saying that there was a student at the school that he works with a lot in the town he lives in that they had a kid that spent like a day or two in the hospital because of a vape.
Yeah.
And he had vaped the morning before school, and whatever was in there wasn't vape. It was he said what it was. I don't remember what it was. But basically, he reacted to it and basically started having a seizure. And his friends ran. And when they, from the people outside, they saw the friends running. And that's what drew their attention to this kid. If we didn't notice the friends running, this kid probably would have OD'd laying out front of school. And it's like, man, and kind of like what we were saying with Sienna's mom, that, we put so much stock in the way a person looks to justify their personality, that if 70% of the kids in our schools are vaping or are doing some sort of drug, they don't all quote unquote look the part.
No, they don't. I mean, I think of if I'm going to think of someone, I'm thinking they look really rough, but it's even your clean, nicely put together kids, they have so much motivation for some reason. You know what I mean? It's like not everyone who looks perfect is.
No.
And
those kids
scary.
They work hard enough to hide it.
Yes.
Some of the kids that, like you said, look rough and are easy targets for discipline, the ones that you stand outside the bathroom because they're probably doing it in there. For every one of those we caught, there were 7 other kids that day that did the same thing and didn't get caught because those are our athletes, or those are our top achieving kids, or those are the kids from a good home, and we just they'd never do that, and we're the ones being naive.
Yes, we are. As teachers, we're the ones that are, almost failing those rougher looking kids too, because it's like we're stereotyping them well, you have all of the high risks, so you're probably the one doing it over Joe Blow, who comes from it is.
And so we've got to, as parents and teachers, this is a shared effort. Parents, you can't push it onto the schools to raise your kids on this stuff, because they're doing it at home. They're probably doing your stuff. Yeah. And you don't want to face the music because you don't want to jeopardize the relationship with your kid. I get that. But it's also not fair to put it on the schools because, they're only with us, a majority of their day, but they're not with us the majority of their day too. And so I know you can't have two majorities, but you get my point.
Yes.
And so, but yeah, the drug thing for sure. Like, if your kid's on a prescription, don't trust them to just keep their prescription in their room and do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
They're kids.
Yeah,
I don't care. Like Sienna's part, she didn't look like a child. Obviously, we know she was played by someone older. But it's like, just because she looks like a woman doesn't mean she's a woman. Like,
yeah, and she's
still
obviously,
a kid.
I mean, she just popped that Xanax when she felt like she wanted to. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, if it's an as-needed pill, then you need to go to an adult and say, hey, I need it.
Right.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It's because what if you need a lot of them at one time, you feel like?
Right.
Like, kids, and some adults even don't know the cutoff for some of that stuff.
Well, and they just get impatient.
Yes.
Like the guy at the presentation, he was saying that he used to smoke a lot of weed, and then he got turned on to like weed gummies, and so he popped one, no effect. Well, it wasn't taking an effect as quick as smoking it would.
Yeah.
So he popped another one, and he goes, I was probably 3 or 4 in before they hit, and he goes,
Yeah.
and they hit.
Yes.
And so, he's like, you just got to be careful, and I think that's, if there's any educational piece we're going to take out of this, it's monitor your kids, because mom trusted her to take a Xanax when she needed one, and then she went to a party and drank.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, mom clearly wasn't paying as much attention as she should, and even if you as a parent are susceptible or addicted or whatever, that doesn't mean you still can't parent your kid.
Yes.
And so, yes, you may be battling your own demons, but don't let your kid use that as a justification. Well, if you do it, I can too. If you know that you're battling demons, use that as motivation for your kid of like, hey, you don't want to end up like this, do you?
Yeah.
Have a little bit of self-shame, and make sure your kid comes out on the other end correctly.
Yes.
I think we'll have better luck with next week coming up with an educational piece. I hope.
I mean, even if it's not like what would we do teaching? I mean,
Right.
It is a life lesson that.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I'm not going to have with my kindergartners, and I don't want to just outright say it to my volleyball girls, like, hey, don't do drugs.
Right.
But if they're listening to this, like, I want them to know, like, hey, like, this is a lesson that you can take away.
For sure. And it's never too late to take it.
Yeah.
That maybe you're like, well, I'm stuck and I can't get unstuck. Yeah, you can. It's just, you're going to have to face the truth and want to get better, because there's so much help out there, especially these days. Like, everybody wants to help because it's a problem.
Yep.
And you don't want to accidentally take something laced with something, and next thing you know, it's not a problem anymore because you're dead.
Yeah.
And so I guess, if not that we want anyone to die, but I'd rather you face down something as completely unrealistic as Art the Clown.
Yeah.
As opposed to something as realistic of taking a drug you didn't aware was what it was.
Yes.
So next week, we're going to introduce you to a classic and easily one of my favorites. I'm just going to grade it now. This one gets an A+. This gets an A+. We're going to be watching the original 1978 John Carpenter's Halloween, a movie you have not seen.
Nope.
What do you know of it?
Nothing.
Nothing. Oh boy.
Like
you even knew of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. Because I don't know anything. Does this have Freddy or Jason in it?
Nope, neither one.
Okay, so nope, because the only other one that I'm thinking of has Jason, and if
that's Friday the 13th. We'll get to those too.
Okay.
Those are also big favorites of mine.
Okay, we'll have to find a month that Friday lands on the 13th.
Oh yeah.
For Friday the 13th for
sure.
a week.
Sure.
But yeah, I know nothing about it.
Yeah. Well, you're going to, and it is a great movie. I would tell you, very low kill count.
Okay.
Extremely low, like violence.
Okay.
I don't remember, off the top of my head, I don't remember a drop of blood in this movie.
Okay.
But this movie is pure suspense.
Okay.
Like this movie set the tone for a lot of movies today. This movie was before Freddy. This movie was before Jason. This is like the granddaddy of slasher films. Again, with very low kill count, but extremely well made, very suspenseful, and one of those where you just kind of edge of your seat kind of things for a lot of it.
Okay.
Spawned a bunch of sequels that aren't all nearly as good, but no, I'm excited to share this with you. You're gonna enjoy this one, especially after 2 weeks of Terrifier. Back to back Art the Clown. This is the other end of that spectrum.
Okay.
So you'll enjoy it for sure. And so yeah, we'll get our guests back probably the week after that.
Okay. Yes.
We'll bank on that because I really do want to cover Halloween before Halloween. So, that's week 4.
Yeah.
We're a month in now.
We are a month in.
Yeah, we're a month in. And so for Deducation, you can find us on social media. We're on your favorite podcast app. We're on YouTube. So you can find us where, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Drop us a message. Drop us comments if there's something you'd like for us to cover. Again, we're early enough and we're not set on any particular run that we're open. So if there's something that you'd love to hear us chat about, drop it in the comments, send us a message, however you want to communicate that. Because we would love to cover anything you'd like for us to cover. Because there's a pretty good chance you've never seen it. And if not, we'll just keep pulling movies at random. So that'll work. But for Deducation, we will see you next week. I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And you guys have a good week.